So hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Flip and Drift. It's a special episode because we're here in the beautiful city of Barcelona, and I'm with my friend Kody. Frank is not here today because Frank had to go on a yacht trip. So I can't blame him, having a yacht trip at the end of summer is actually pretty awesome. But Kody's here to keep me warm anyway. So hi Kody, welcome to the podcast.
Dustin, how's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. It's always good to visit you here in Barcelona. And I'm glad you changed cities, so at least instead of visiting you outside of our apartment during the pandemic, now I'm able to see you in a different
Let's just clarify to the audience. We weren't living together. We weren't hanging out just outside of our apartment. We were
Come on, we were
living
pandemic
across
buddies.
Yes, we were. We were in each other's bubbles during the pandemic. But yes, we were living across the street from each other. Not within the same apartment.
They were too close. Yeah. Cool. So just as a reminder, Flip and Drift is a podcast focused on building ventures around the world. And that's why we keep on traveling. You see us in a different city. We try to focus on different cultures. We talk also about how product is being built in different places. And for this episode, we want to lean in a little bit deeper into product and our product experience because there was a clamor as if we had like 1,000 followers, but a lot of people wanted to hear more about our product experiences because they can really relate to it. And I think being a founder is not only focused on one aspect, of being a tech person, but it's also about being a product person, being a UX person, wearing multiple hats, right? So I think I'll shift things a little bit and ask you more about. Tell me more about, are you Canadian?
Yes. I'm Canadian, but also recently I just obtained my Portuguese citizenship. So I got that dual passport life going right now, which is quite great. But yes, I've lived in Canada pretty much the entirety of my life, 36 years, and I've been in Barcelona now for 1 year, which has been, quite great.
Cool. So how did I get to Canada? And I think that's a story that I haven't told people yet. So I moved to Canada, or Toronto in particular, in 2019. I was a little bit fed up with San Francisco. I've been in San Francisco, I think, since 2013 for business school. And I moved to Canada because I got my permanent residency in 2016. In 2019, I think the stars aligned and I realized that, hey, I want to try out Toronto to make sure that if Canada's for me, then, I'll definitely lean in and move to Canada completely. But if it's not, at least I've tried it, And I think the H-1B process or the visa that you get moving to America, and I think, the story, Kody, I wasn't able to get it yet. So, I was flexible and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I think we always do that, right? And I think it's good to explore if you have the opportunity to do so. So I tried applying for jobs and I was able to get into this company that focused on home services called HomeX in 2019. And I told myself, hey, it's a good jump coming from the innovation lab of the Home Depot to Toronto to join them. And I think it was a very good move because I was ready for it. A lot of my friends were not in San Francisco anymore. And, it was time for me to try out a new city. So I just took the leap. I think I had some friends already in Toronto that made me comfortable in taking that leap. But the tech scene was very new to me. And I think it was a good experience. So how did we meet then?
Yeah, well, coincidentally, I was also working at the same tech company startup, HomeX. This was actually my second tech company. I started in high performance sports before that in a wearable space, and we could get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I think we started around the same month or so at HomeX. I'll say HomeX / Schedule Engine because we are also part of the B2B arm as well.
But we never knew about Schedule Engine.
No, we didn't. We were working for HomeX, and then Schedule Engine was a thing. Yeah, a little bit of a bait switch. But for the better, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
That's how we met. I was pretty stoked to join that company. There was at least on paper or on LinkedIn, the leadership team looked pretty strong. We had eBay execs, Tesla execs, folks coming from the Bay Area, and Toronto's tech scene is obviously nowhere near as big as the Bay Area. So just having some of that talent, getting to work with some of that talent in Toronto / Chicago, because the head office was in Chicago, was quite exciting for me.
And actually, I moved to Toronto for this role just because they had a mix of both. So I felt that, if they were to expand a little bit more into the US market, then there's an opportunity for me to go back, and there's that cross country thing. And at the same time, I think, the package wasn't fantastic, but I think the opportunity to work with something fresh and new was pretty exciting for me in the heart of Toronto. And I think they mentioned also that the engineering team and product and UX would be in Toronto, while the business side and the sales side would be in Chicago. So, I think it was awesome being able to even have the opportunity to travel between both cities. Yeah. Why don't you tell me a little bit, Kody, or our guests on Schedule Engine and what it was in the context of like HomeX and also the type of work that we did.
Yeah, so Schedule Engine effectively was at its core, really, it was almost like appointment management and appointment collection for the home services industry. So think of your plumbers, your electricians, your handyman, your HVAC individuals. I would say the majority of the clientele at the time was the companies themselves were quite small. It was B2B, obviously. The companies themselves were quite small. Some of our clients were two guys in a truck, really, and they're managing their appointments and managing their services off of their smartphones in their van, or while under a sink or fixing a toilet, whatever the case may be. So really what Schedule Engine was trying to do, and what they were doing quite successfully, was actually just capturing leads. Effectively, they built a widget. Widget goes on the website of these home services companies, and we'd capture those leads and send them those appointments. It later grew into something bigger, and that was something I was working on quite heavily. Zero to Many called it. It was actually probably one of my favorite products I built on, and this is when I do job interviews, this is the one I always refer back to. So this isn't a job interview, but from itself, it was a pretty solid experience. The team grew quite quickly, HomeX / Schedule Engine. Obviously, the company was very, very well funded, and it was also a very interesting time, because I think this is something that maybe we'll touch on a little bit. It was the beginning of COVID. Like we were really, I think you and I were both only working at this company for about 6 months, and then the pandemic basically started, and everyone was sent home to work remotely. And I remember the last day in the office. It was I think it was in Toronto. At least we were shutting things down in I think it was March. I just remember it was myself and one other engineer left in the office. We were the only two, and I was walking out with a monitor just so I had a second monitor at home to work with. I wasn't stealing it. It was, they told me to take what I needed, so I took what I needed. It was definitely an interesting time, because that was like the, remote work was coming. It was going to be a thing, but I think the pandemic basically just accelerated everything. Let's say 10 years or so. Just getting people more and more used to remote work and the remote tools that now everybody in tech uses, and it's quite ubiquitous.
Yeah, and I think we only thought it would be a week that we're going to do it, but we know how that story went, and now we're in our 5th year and we're still talking.
Some companies have still not gone back, right?
I have another perspective on remote work.
There are some forces coming, some that are forcing individuals back, but I think remote work is here to stay. I think it's also just a privilege to have remote options. Maybe I'm a little bit of an old head, but I still do miss going to a physical place from time to time. I think there is something about collaborating in person, and I think some of the best ideas and the best solutions that have come up with, or problems that were solved, were in person, whether that was in a formalized brainstorming session or a workshop, or at the water cooler or the coffee station in the office, or the ping pong table.
Do we talk at coffee?
Over
coffee? Yeah. Do we bond over coffee? Do we talk about other people over coffee?
Yeah, well, I think that leads to solutions too.
Yeah. But I think, I don't want to lean in too much into the COVID situation, but I think it might be good to start also talking about, our product approach while building all of these tools. And I think the best part about HomeX and working with Schedule Engine. So for me, I got to experience both sides of the house. Initially, I was hired to be a PM more on the consumer side, being able to work and build tools for technicians. I think they called it a tech app, where you can manage your jobs, and instead of having paper and pen to record everything that happens inside a customer's home and what you do there, they wanted to digitize it because there's a lot of companies that are very old school. And I think home services, even until now, and all of the tools and companies are trying to modernize the end-to-end solution, and nobody still owns everything. We thought Service Titan, which bought Schedule Engine, was going to own everything, but until now, they still own a piece, but not yet the entire funnel. And even the retailers, like when I was at Home Depot, they were trying to also do the same thing, but they realized, even with them being a public company and having a lot of money, that there's only so much you can do, I think, and you have to focus on what you want to prioritize. But going back to Schedule Engine, I think let's talk about the core skills that we've learned and implemented and worked with, and some of the core learnings that I think we can share with everyone. So can you tell me more, Kody, about what type of product you managed, and at the same time, I think what you've learned being able to handle that side of the house? Because
very, very briefly, we were working on a solution that we called customer service as a service. Effectively, what we gathered through data and interviews and research was that our clients weren't very good at customer service. And like I mentioned before, most of our clients, or a lot of our clients, were technicians. They were driving a van every day, or driving a pickup truck every day, or on jobs. So they didn't have time to be messaging people back or taking appointments over the phone. And that part of the job, or that part of their business, was falling to the wayside a little bit, was falling off. So there was an idea that came present that, maybe we could do this for them. Maybe we could build a solution where we handle their inbounds, their calls, whether people are calling for a new appointment or following up or asking a question, whatever the case might be. What any good product manager should do is effectively don't take an idea and build a 16-month roadmap and release it on the 16th month. In this organization, which was quite exciting to work at, there was a lot of one of my bosses at the time, or managers at the time, we would say this: there was a lot of activity, but not a lot of productivity. And it's not to undermine or cut, but we weren't actually delivering solutions, and actually weren't really testing things out in the market. We were over, and I think a lot of companies fall into this. I've seen this many, many places, where they fall too in love with their idea and they heavily invest without just crawling, without walking, without running, and then you could fly, essentially. Yeah. So effectively what we wanted to do is build a quick POC, get it on the market, hand it out to a couple of champions. This is like MVP 101, by the way, and see if there's any traction. Are they using it? Is it working? And it's not just about like adoption and usability. You have to set one or two metrics. And the big thing was, effectively what we did is, can we outcompete our own existing solution, which was the widget on their website? And we were. I don't remember the exact number or the details. I have to go through my CV for that. But we were able to. And then we said, okay, we have something here. We built this on top of Zendesk. We barely engineered it. And okay, let's actually start ramping this up and scaling this up. Not to jump to the end here, but this product became quite successful for the organization, quite popular, and quite great in terms of, we were able to not only expand our client base and obtain new business, but we were actually creating new jobs. We created effectively like a call center, or a live inbound center. We had a revamped CS department, and not only were we building user-facing functions to our businesses, but now we're building internal tools, and we're hiring more product people to manage this. It got too big for just one PM to work on, which is great. Which is exactly what it's like, a great problem to have in terms of a product success. Yeah. But like I said, I think one of the things that why we were successful here is, and it's really like, I'm a very much an execution. I'm not going to say execution first, because there's due diligence that has to happen with product management, but you have to get something out there, right? I think a lot of product teams, not just product managers, product teams or product organizations, build fantastic ideas, in Miro or in PowerPoint presentations, and they never actually get into the hands of prospects or users. Just get it out there. I think it is quite important, especially if you don't have to worry about damaging brand reputation and stuff like that too. Obviously, you might have to mitigate some of that. You might have to massage it a little bit, but get it out of Miro. That's all I'm saying. Try to get it out of Miro.
But also, Kody, I think we have to also recognize that not only for this organization, but for all of the companies that we've worked with, there's always been a problem with prioritization, right? And we want, as the smallest product manager in an organization, we want to get stuff out the door, but we realize that sometimes the bottom of the food chain does not align with the top of the food chain, right? And we've realized sometimes that there are product leaders everywhere, not only this organization, but in all of our experiences, that we fall under the mercy of their non-decision making, you know? And I feel sometimes that they just keep, a lot of leaders, just keep on talking, feeling that they're strategizing, they're putting plans together. But if the bottom line, or let's say all of the product managers are working on something without prioritization, then there's also disarray down there. You know, and I think, let's take a step back, and I think we need to generalize that in a lot of our experiences, this is common, right? And I think to tackle these problems, we always have to tell our managers and remind them that, hey, let's not politicize everything, but let's prioritize. See, that's a new quote. Not politicize, you got to prioritize.
Very good.
Or even spend a little bit more time knowing what the top priorities are so the team can start working on them and delivering on them while the politics and the bickering or the reprioritization is happening. But, we need to make sure that there's always a strategy in place, or shield your team from this bickering or this politicizing or this non-prioritization.
Yeah, and if I could touch on that, product managers, the playbook is be obsessed about your users.
Yeah.
Right? And you should know your users inside out.
Yeah.
As I've been doing this now for, I think this is 7 years, 8 years or something, there's also like a massive player that you have to understand, and that's your stakeholders. And
yeah, that's a good one.
Any new product manager or any product manager joining a new organization, everyone gives those, what's your 30, 60, 90-day plan when you join a new organization?
You even follow the 30,
and I just joined the new one recently, over the last couple of months.
Oh, okay.
But you really, really should understand your stakeholders and what are they driving? What are they looking for? What motivates them? What makes them tick?
Yeah.
Again, you don't want your stakeholders' opinions to get in the way of the best possible solution for your product and for your users. But you can't do this alone. PMs can't do this alone. We don't make every single decision. The whole CEO of the product, that thing has been, I think, debunked for a long time and everything. No, there's a CEO and there's leadership for a reason. But at the same time, if you don't really understand their motivations, you won't be able to get your motivations out the door for your user base.
But I think I want to lean into that, man, that, number one, what you've mentioned is that we need to have a 30-60-90 when you join a company. For those that don't know, a 30-60-90, just to define it also for our audience, is that literally it's the first 30 days, the first 60 days, and the first 90 days. I think being able to execute such a plan and showing it to your leadership team when you join a company shows your readiness and your firm, is it aggressiveness perhaps? Not really. It's more of like your commitment, right? To do a good job when you start this job so that they don't feel like it's a long onboarding process.
Yeah.
Because a lot of managers and teams feel that onboarding is one of the things that make the team go slower. But I think with product managers being equipped with this 30-60-90 knowledge, it alleviates the anxiety from the team.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a good point to bring in for any new PMs or PMs running new organizations is some onboarding processes are quite extensive. You won't even look at the backlog or the active sprints for maybe a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
But what I really, really push PMs and new PMs, especially ones that reach out to me or people that I'm kind of like mentoring on the side, is when you join an organization, try and find that lowest hanging fruit and ship something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because I think like even if it's like a no-brainer, it should be a no-brainer. You probably won't have time to do a lot of research and discovery, but something that's been sitting in the backlog for a long time but has a lot of research behind it, has a lot of potential value behind it.
Yeah.
A small one sprint item get it out the door.
Yeah.
Right. You immediately kind of show leadership and stakeholders that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're not fooling around. You're not just these discovery PMs who are just
So
constantly
this is like throwing yourself into the fire.
Yeah, you got to dive into the deep end a
So
little
there
bit.
should be part of the 30th, within the 30th day, right?
Yeah, within like
Yeah.
maybe the 30th to the 60th day. Find that small thing and get it out the door. Again, these are just guidelines. You could do it on your second day if you're that ambitious.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite important. And not only that, again, PMs we're effectively useless without a team, right? We need our engineering team, we need our data analysts, we need our designers. If you're lucky enough to have a full stack team, and working with them and building trust with them is pretty important.
Yeah.
You never want to get to a point where your pod or your engineering team doesn't trust the decisions that you're making or doesn't really think your roadmap makes a lot of sense. So again, find out what motivates them.
Yeah.
Find out that nagging bug that people have been neglecting for a while and get that out the door as early as possible, because I think it shows the organization and it shows the team that you're quite committed.
Yeah. I think before they even jump in and do the work, definitely I think the stakeholder thing would be very important and really understand who you're responsible and accountable for. There's something called the RACI model. I have to research again what RACI means, and I'll probably post it somewhere here in this podcast, assuming that there's something floating around on the screen.
Yeah.
Not a big influencer, but there's a RACI model where you can plot out who your stakeholders are and the degree of responsibility you have with them. And I think being able to do something that quick and talking to them quickly gives you a feel already for how sensitive or not sensitive they are with building. Because there are some stakeholders that might be a little bit too sensitive and they don't want you to rock the boat this early joining the team. That's why I think you have to be careful and make sure that you do this due diligence work before really jumping in and getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, of course. Don't just strip out their entire onboarding process for something that you saw.
Yeah.
But there should be, hopefully there'll be a couple, like I said, low-hanging fruits that are, or what you might call them meatballs. That's something that is pretty straightforward and get hit out the park.
Yeah. Cool. And I think something we forgot also to mention is that I think a lot of leaders also love having a lot of visuals. I think being part of the leadership team or a product leader, you have to be very good at telling a good story, right? That's why a lot of them, most of the time, they're in meetings, as compared to the more junior PMs that are actually doing the grunt work of putting tickets out the door, working with the engineering team. Having very good stories are very important, but also we need to make sure that as leaders, because now we're on a product leadership level as compared to our younger years as younger PMs. I think we get obsessed a lot with the story that we tell, but at the same time, we need to make sure that the strategy is prioritized over visuals, right? Yep. Because the visuals can only get somewhere, but that doesn't influence your team, right? Yep. So you really get your team running. And let's say Kody's part of your team, you have to make sure Kody's able to ship something and you're not just in the weeds of strategy. But as a product leader, there's a different, I think, level or separation of type of work. And when I was in one of these bigger tech companies, which I don't want to mention, they also had a matrix of responsibilities based on levels. So I think it might be good, and I know this is already deviating away, but it might be good to also look at what are the expectations of you at that level as a junior PM, as a regular PM, as a senior PM, as a director of product management, so that you can also benchmark and make sure that you're not over the top doing work, but at the same time, you're not underperforming. I'm not sure if all organizations have it, but I think it's good practice, even as a startup, to have the leveling guide. So you already know where your people should be at. And it also helps with compensation and everything else across the org. But this is a tip already for later on.
Just one point on storytelling. These are stories, not fables.
Oh, yeah.
These aren't things made up to get a point across. I think a good measure of success as to whether a PM is a good storyteller or not is when I could tell this engineer the story and is that person able to repeat it to his colleague quite clearly. Or is it too convoluted? Is it too much detail? Is it too whatever? Or is it too bloated? It should be able to be retold. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be a game of broken telephone. Yeah. So if it gets through the entire team or through some of the organization, it's not completely twisted and mixed up. So I think that's a good measure of storytelling. Yeah. And please, PMs who are interviewing for new companies or interviewing for new jobs, that is probably the number one skill that at least the hiring manager is looking for and beyond. They want to make sure that you're a good storyteller. What were you solving for? Why was it a problem? Why was that why a problem? Just keep asking whys, and they're going to keep asking it. And that's probably it doesn't even matter if the product was a success. And in all honesty, I don't think it is, now that I do a lot of interviews now for new candidates. But we want to hear this story, and we want to be excited about the story that you told, because there's a lot of great talent out there. And I think there's a lot of great talent with a lot of great hard skills, but there's such an important factor of soft skills, and that makes a great PM.
I know we're at time for this topic, but I wanted to ask more about storytelling, and I'll put you on the spot. It's not in our script, but I'll put you on the spot. What do you think are good ways for product managers? Because a lot of people always talk about storytelling, and the problem there is that a lot of people talk about it, but there are no use cases that they mention on how to be a better storyteller. I'm wondering, you can spend like a few seconds to think about it, but how have you practiced storytelling, so that you're a better storyteller? Is that correct? But how have you practiced this craft so that you're a better storyteller? What have you learned? What tips can you share with the audience, perhaps, to help them craft more or be better at storytelling? And then I can share my experience.
Yeah. And I think this is all about the evolution of product management. I don't think everyone is a great storyteller, but right from the get-go, maybe some people are. I think the way that I was kind of exposed to being a better storyteller was sitting on a sales table or sitting with the sales
That's
team.
a very good one. Yeah.
Salespeople, better for worse, are some of the best storytellers out there.
Yeah, they are.
And I think PMs should, there's always that classic feud between, especially in B2B, sales sales and product, but they're a huge source of information. There's a huge source of product validation, research discovery is getting close to the sales team and the sales organization, and they're fantastic storytellers. Go and try and sell the product, right? Or if you're never been a PM before and you're really, really interested in it, go be an associate salesperson somewhere if you can, right? Or try and sell. What was the classic course? Like Toastmasters, remember? It was just like a way to just speak in
Rotary?
front. I don't know. Way to just speak in front of people.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of how I found my approach to storytelling. Is sitting with the sales folks, especially it gets very specific, right? You're learning about the product, and you're selling that product. So I think that's probably the best piece of advice I would give.
And to cap that, I think it's also going full circle and talking to your customers, right? It's all about doing user research when you do product validation and getting feedback from your potential customers. I think that's where you can actually use your storytelling skills and practice it, right? Because sometimes you have to explain something to them that you don't know if they understand completely, but you have to simplify it in their own understanding. And that, I think, is a way to practice and be better at it.
And you get a better idea of why it matters to them. I think a lot of product teams think that every feature and every release is the most important thing ever, when a lot of these functions and features might not even be used or even seen by the user base. So when you're doing these user interviews, you're really trying to get a sense of, okay, how do I get this person from A to B, right, without having them go through C, D, E, F, G, right?
Yeah.
And that's the most important, I think, in terms of these user interviews. And then you get better at asking the right questions, right? And when you're good at asking the right questions, you're getting much better at giving the correct responses in the future.
So Kody, let's talk about the different types of PMs, because people don't know that there are different types of product managers, similar to like engineers, right? There are different types of engineers that have different skill sets, that also use different types of tools and their stack. By the way, when people ask about the stack, it's all about the tools that you like using, or the language that you're comfortable with. For product managers, it's also the same, right? Like, it's about the tools that we like using. It's also the tools that we have in our toolbox, because each product manager is comfortable with a different set of tools. Let me just explain the different types of PMs that are out there. So there are platform PMs that actually build foundations others build upon. They really focus on developer experience, APIs, and enabling ecosystems. For other companies that I've worked with, they're also called the core team, where they're a horizontal product management team that cut across multiple verticals. So there might be one horizontal team and B2B consumer, different types of teams that sit on top of them. Not literally, but probably they do because they have one roadmap for everyone, right?
Boy.
We could talk about that forever. There are also consumer PMs that work on user-facing stuff. Their engagement, they focus on engagement metrics and rapid iteration. And they have to be sensitive also because everything that they ship will impact the dollar amounts probably that come in because they're nearest to their customer. And I'd love to even chat later on about what's more challenging, B2B or B2C, because those are the most common product management roles. Just because they're different, I think, angles that how you can answer that question. There are also B2B PMs, business-to-business PMs, where their focus are other businesses. The difference between the consumer and the B2B is that, and you can explain it a little bit later, they have longer sales cycles, so much longer. They focus on ROI for the business, and they're really focused on partnerships, more than, hey, let's run a Facebook ad, because the customers might not be there, right, on Facebook. And finally, there's this new role, which everybody is excited and not excited about because it might eliminate their old role at their old company. It's called the world of AI PMs. And I think the AI PMs now are more horizontal than vertical just because AI, at least in the early stages, replace certain workflows that are still outdated. And this role is very special because I think this is the new digital transformation PM. Have you heard about digital transformation as a concept?
I can't say that I have.
It's an old terminal. I think it's still new. I just find it old, but it's an old terminology for making turning outdated systems into something modern.
Okay.
For example, in our old world of contractors, it's being able to convert an on-prem server solution, meaning you have a machine that's running your system, to a cloud-based solution. So that's digital transformation.
Got it.
But now that we have cloud solutions, it's being able to use those cloud solutions and optimizing what needs to be delivered across different applications, not only that single cloud solution. And that's where AI can come in. Because when we do like road mapping sessions with different startups that I work with, we always look at, hey, how can AI replace some of the existing tool set that we have and optimize the process? Or how do we automate things without human hands touching the system? Okay. What type of PM are you, Kody?
I would say I heavily lean into the B2B PM space.
Preference or experience?
I'm going to go with both.
Okay.
Yeah, answer to both. I can't really say I've worked on much consumer stuff except for maybe some experiments. Pretty much every company that I've been has been extremely B2B. Now, this organization that I just recently joined, it's a two-sided marketplace, and it's connecting businesses to users, the business's clients.
Okay.
And there's an entire consumer team. I'm on the B2B side, of course, because my CV definitely better matches that, and I've had success in that side. But yeah, definitely way more B2B. I think B2B is, you can also break up B2B, obviously B2B SaaS, but then there's also like B2B enterprise, which has extremely long sales cycles. You're even further removed from the clientele and the users themselves, which makes building products a little more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It actually even makes shipping products a little bit more difficult. I think the stereotype is quite true working in enterprise is that they don't really like change, right? There's usually massive onboarding of new functions in the organization, and then, ship a new function, a new feature, and then your inbox is flooded from your point of contact over there saying, why did this change? Or why is this new? And now I have to train all my employees on how to use this product again. So I've had a little bit of experience with my previous organization with B2B enterprise, but it's largely just been B2B SaaS for me.
Do you think, though, that it's like the dog looks like its owner analogy, where it's not here, but
Yeah.
the dog looks like its owner. So example, if you look at the dog and it's a Bichon Frise and the owner looks like a Bichon Frise, like the human version of it,
Okay.
you're like your personality is the epitome of a B2B product manager, where you're patient, even if the sales cycle is longer, that's your personality anyway. You're patient. Like, you can wait for cycles until a big feature gets out, but you're happy with the small features that make an impact slowly to big companies and the dollar amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I'm the guy who you just leave them behind, and I'm already tapping my pen like this, because and I have a fidget spinner because I want to do something quickly. And that's why for me, I'm more of a consumer PM, is because I'm impatient, and I like talking to customers. I like being in front of them. I like shifting the strategy if we feel that, we want to shift course immediately.
Yep.
I get bored easily. So I feel like it's also a personality thing when you think about it. It's not because it's the job that's given to you, that's why you're forced to do it. I mean, if we were forced to do it, we wouldn't work for that company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we stick to a certain type of product management path because that reflects our personality, you know?
And on the topic of B2B and talking to users, it's just as important. As on the consumer side of things.
Yeah.
It's equally as important. There's a whole thing that we'll probably get into a little bit later, but there's a lot of product management work. We've only been talking about like shipping features and building roadmaps, but there's a whole bunch of work. And I think this is what separates product managers from product leaders and the operational side of things. And not every organization is going to have a research team. Not every organization is going to have a full roster of customers and users ready to talk to you. Sometimes you got to be scrappy. Sometimes you got to get those $50 Amazon gift cards ready to go to speak to speak to your users.
Yeah.
It's like the most cliche thing about speaking to your users, and time again, out of all the organizations I've worked in, so many product teams are not doing it. It's like, it's absolutely astonishing to me. And it's probably my favorite part of the job is speaking to users. And especially in this new organization, I have like full freedom to speak to as many users as possible. And they're from all over the world. And it's quite exciting, but guys, just get 2-3 hours a week speaking to your user base. Even if it doesn't yield a solution or anything, you'll just build a little bit more empathy. You'll be a little bit more closer to the product and to the user base as well.
And I think leaders should also promote that, right? Because sometimes leaders, what they do is they want a shipping factory where you just ship out features. But I think there needs to be a certain percentage of the time or percent of the time focused on talking to customers and getting their feedback. So I think there needs to be a healthy balance.
Yeah, that's the whole output versus outcome, right?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of product teams are measured on how much have they shipped this quarter, how much have they shipped this year, with like minimal or no measurable effect on what those outcomes are, and that's quite important. And you'll see that with a lot of junior leadership too, right? Anyone can start a company and hire a bunch of people, and they think activity is productivity, right? And it you know what it is? It is tough to measure everything that a product team does and a product manager does. Not everything is gonna 10x ARR, right? There is some table stakes and some boilerplate stuff that just needs to be done, but yeah, don't become a feature factory because you're literally wasting time and you're wasting money.
So let's talk about PM roles, because we're in Barcelona now and you transferred to Europe. I think it would be good to share a little bit more about the differences between being a product manager in Europe or certain regions. I can't say Europe in general, like North America is all three of them that's hosting the World Cup. But actually, that's not true. North America is just America. And okay, I don't want to get myself into a hole of geography. So why don't you tell me more about the differences of your experience between being a product manager in Canada and also being a product manager here in Europe?
Yeah, I think that's I don't know if you're going to like the answer, but I don't think there's like a massive difference. And I think there's way more of a difference between the different organizations and the levels of the organizations that you're joining. This will be my second European company that I'm working for. The first one I worked with was quite small, less than 100 people, and had a very, very niche product in a very, very small market, obviously trying to expand like everybody. And then this second company I've joined is about 1,000 people, basically dominate the European market, and they're now moving to the US market. And what I think is the contrasting styles, and I think from like product management standpoint, is like, are you adaptable, right? Working for one startup and trying to build products for a region that really, really loves rules and regulations, and I've always kind of been the PM that's like, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, kind of get things out the door, and you can't do that in this one region or this one company. So I don't think there's like a massive difference in styles. I do think there is a massive difference in, or not a massive difference, but I am seeing a difference in potentially like leadership styles and maybe just like work culture as a whole.
Tell us more about that, man. I think that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think big city like Toronto, which for a lot of the viewers here, Toronto is a big city.
It is a big city. Yeah, there's GTA.
Yeah, and then
it's not even Grand Theft Auto.
And then you include the GTA, then it's even it's even bigger. It's like twice or three times the size. But there is definitely like a hustle and a hustle and a bustle. I don't work for. I am in Spain. I'm in Barcelona, and I don't work for a Spanish company. I work for. Right now, I currently work for a Polish company, and there is definitely still a push. And they're like, we're not sunbathing at the beach every single day for 3 hours and getting things out when we want to. But I see and I'm finding right now the leadership style here is, how do I say this diplomatically, is a little bit more organized in terms of their thought process and getting things to the employee base and getting things to their team. And I've only been here for a year. It's only my second organization. Well, collectively about a year and a half working for European focused companies. But I find that there's a little bit more, there's like a more clean path of getting the information to the team and to the employees. Where I found some of the organizations I worked with in the past in North America, it was a little bit more scrambled. Everything seemed a little bit more like their hair was on fire. Everything, the world was coming to an end. Now, I can't say that's a North American issue versus a European issue. It could just be the organizations or the time of
But do you feel that's also a culture thing? Like the motivation and even the work-life balance? I don't know.
I think entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. I think they're, regardless of where they are in the world, I think they're gonna want to push, and great leaders are typically entrepreneurs, and they're going to want to be able to push and move things forward. But I think there is definitely like an emphasis on not burning out your employees here.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, man.
Yeah.
Is that I worked at the Bay Area for some time, and it's really the hustle culture, and there are trade-offs. And take note, one might not be good than the other, and vice versa. It really depends on the type of person that you are and what you're looking for in your career. But I think at the Bay Area, they really squeeze you dry, So even after work, they expect you to still respond back. They try to, even during the pandemic, and working remote was actually better for employers than it was for employees at the Bay Area or America. But in Europe, I think it was better for the employees more than the employer, just because there's work-life balance with Europe as compared to the US, where it's all about hustle culture. But there's a trade-off there, right? Because you're able to grind more time into work, you're able to produce probably more output and more things, and because there's a blurring of lines between home and work, people will tend to work more, which was probably better for the company. So they were able to deliver whatever they needed to do during the pandemic and really get shit out fast. But in Europe, perhaps because of the work-life balance, there's also a limit to that, right? That if people just clock in at 9 and then leave at 5, then probably not all of the work gets done. But at the same time,
but maybe the appropriate amount of work gets done.
The appropriate amount of work gets done. But again, it's really a cultural difference,
totally.
Right?
Totally.
And I could have said that, oh, probably for Europe, they're able to get stuff done besides it being 9 to 5 because they have more energy during the day as compared to your employees coming in the morning the next day and they're already so tired, right? And I think it's really a personal preference then for that individual to, if they're deciding which region to work in, that, you have to put in these considerations as part of your decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're not saying that one is better than the other. It's not to burn bridges, but it's always about, I think, the personal preference of the individual.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I kind of started this by saying I don't really see like a massive difference between Europe and North America.
Yeah.
I think for any PM out there who may be looking for a new job or looking for their first product role or changing companies, it's much more, don't worry about the location. If you have the freedom to move anywhere,
and I agree,
that's
it's
great.
not about the region. It's not about the location. I think it's all about, and that's why we started first with the type of product management, because despite our experiences globally being a product manager everywhere, I think the focus is not about the region. What you should be focused on is the type of product manager that you want to be, because each of these regions will give you, the knowledge that you need. That for us, that we've experienced both regions working, like for me, I've also worked in Asia. It gave me a different angle or perspective on how to approach product problems and the work that I do.
Yep.
Right. So I think you have to use being regional to your advantage, because, the more multicultural you are, the more that you're able to add on to that experience coming from different cultures and and building a more global product. And how I think about it now, Kody, is that when you work in, let's say, for a German company or a Polish company, when you move, let's say, to a Spanish company, you can also apply the same learnings that you've had with these cultures in order for them to launch regionally.
Yep.
And I think that's the best learning we can get out of it. Regionality, I think, only applies to specific roles like sales, right? Where certain people speak a certain language and you really need to know that market really well to sell in a different style as compared to another market. But for product, I think product is global.
Yeah,
right?
no, I totally agree. And that's one of the big things, like Europe versus North America. It's more so interview the companies that you're interviewing for.
Yeah.
Like that's, if you really want to get an understanding of what they're claiming is their work-life balance and their employee benefits to what they actually are, do your due diligence in that case and everything. I'm not saying moving from North America to Europe is not going to immediately change your life. Right?
Yeah.
Make sure you know who you're getting in bed with.
Yeah. Let's quickly talk about AI in product management. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have been asking about how AI has impacted our roles, the type of work that we do. Might be good to dig in to that experience.
Sure. How do you want to start this? Do you want to talk about you seem like a pretty big AI.
Yeah.
Are you team? You're bullish. You're bullish on AI, or
I'm very bullish with AI. I feel like if you're not doing AI now, then you've already been left behind.
Yeah, that's what I think. This
or the ship has sailed.
Yeah, and now we're seeing all these roles, like AI PMs.
I think AI is the new Google Docs. Nobody even mentions that it's Google Docs. It's just that I just have.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's effectively gonna. I saw like a very, very great quote. It's like AI is gonna change the way we work the same way the microwave changed the way we cook food.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's a very, very great tool, and I think it drastically increases output for product managers or product teams, not just product managers, for everyone who works in tech. Really, is it going to replace product managers? That's what everyone's worried about. It's going to replace. I don't think so. Maybe that's just me being a little optimistic. Are PMs who refuse to use AI going to be replaced? I think they're just going to be fizzled out or phased out. And whether that's vibe coding sessions or cleaning up docs or even starting some preliminary research, just to kind of, product managers, we write a lot too.
Yeah.
And sometimes PMs get writer's blocks. It's like, okay, I got to write this PRD or I got to set up this research project. Oh, and you just get that white Google Doc with the blinking line staring at you, right? It's the same sort of get those LLMs to get going, get those ChatGPTs to get going for you. And then, do your due diligence. Don't leave a million M dashes in there. And then it gets you started.
Yeah, and I think the best way to start on it, and I believe that you should already be starting having AI as part of your workflow, wherever it might be, whether it's writing, whether it's visualization, whether it's being able to put together your strategy document or release notes. I think it should already be plugged in. And the best way to do it is really try out all of the tools,
Sure.
because I feel like there's no perfect tool for you. And I think all of the tools are still trying to carve out their own niche. Um, but I think one of these tools will actually unlock a big thing for you. So something that I've been doing recently is that I've had certain startups that I work with be frustrated with the delivery cycle because there's product requirements, UX, putting the designs together, or even just us putting together like a mock, and then having that delivered. But we cut a lot of the process by me being able to do the prototypes myself and putting the flows together and then do the documentation after, or do a very quick documentation and then plugging it into these AI tools. So like Lovable and Replit, I think are amazing tools to start with. And then I even started learning all of these just because I was bored at a coffee shop and I'm like, I have like productive time. What do I do? And then I started coding and I was able to come up with a prototype that replaced the requirements gathering process that I had pending with a startup that I was working with. So I feel like give it a try and then it's either you love it or you hate it, right?
Yeah, and a word of advice for any aspiring PMs: it's never been easier to build a product.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I get hit on LinkedIn all the time about asking me about my product journey and how do I get into product management. And I always tell them, if you can, build a business, build a product. Like 10 years ago, it would have been like, try drop shipping. Like that was all the rage or whatever. Build a quick and easy, quick and dirty drop shipping website. Now with, these vibe coding tools and Lovable and Figma Make or whatever, it's never been easier to, build a solution to a problem that you might solve, or that you're a problem that you're trying to solve. And there you go. You've now just started your story, and now you're gonna bring that feature or that product or that website to the market, and you're gonna start tracking it, and you're gonna start getting metrics, and you're gonna start learning about what people want or don't want out of this product. You've just become a product manager, right? You might not be getting paid for it yet, but you've just become a product manager.
Yeah, and even start some of these projects yourself and then testing it out. I mean, for some of these AI tools, there's a limit to your technical acumen. For you to implement everything, but ask a buddy or ask a developer, a friend of yours, to actually finish it if you get stuck.
It's never been easier to learn new things right now.
Yeah, totally.
Especially with AI, right?
Yeah, but just carving out that time, I think.
Yeah,
is
totally.
very
I think
important.
that's always going to be the limit.
Yeah. All right, Kody. So now, I think since the pandemic, we've been with remote teams. Even until now that you moved to Portugal, you still work with a fully remote company.
I live in Barcelona.
Oh, sorry.
Where are we?
We're in America.
Yeah.
No, so now that we're in Barcelona, now that you moved to Barcelona, why don't you talk about how does remote work culture differ between the US and Europe?
Yeah, how does it differ? And I think we talked about a little bit of the work-life balance and the right to disconnect and the cultural differences between the two. I've been quite lucky. I've had remote work for the last 4 years. Back when I was living in Canada, we always had the option to come into the office, and I was one of maybe 10 or 20% of the employees that actually would go in from time to time, especially for the free lunch days. Everyone loves free pizza days. Quite important. But like, what are some of the bigger differences here? Well, like I said, I don't think there's like massive differences. I think there's like more people are more cognizant of people's time, especially when you're spread across time zones. I've worked with individuals that are living in Cambodia and the Philippines and now in Brazil and America. So I think it's much more important to, set those scheduled messages on Slack so you're not blowing people's phone up when they're sleeping or at dinner in their respective countries. But I don't think there's like, again, massive differences in remote work between the two. I think it's probably more widely adopted here now. And I think just like startups in general, it's just like a massive overhead to have a physical location. and it's just like a pain in the butt,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now it's so easy with all the million tools options to collaborate remotely. Now, where I think remote work kind of fails or doesn't feel the same as it was like working in office or working, it is like those brainstorming workshop sessions. You come to a room of 20 people. Maybe that's the first problem. You have too many people in the room. You come into a workshop session and half of the audience or half of the participants have their camera off, and who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or are they really engaged? And even those who have camera on, how engaged are they? So I think there's just like a little bit more like upfront work. Like I'm currently running a workshop right now where no one is really allowed to attend this workshop unless they've done the homework beforehand. I'm expecting everybody to present something. I'm expecting everyone to, I'm not asking you to brainstorm on the spot. Come to this brainstorming session ready to go. And everyone is going to have designated times to speak and say why this function, we should focus on this, or we should work on that, or their opinion on this. And that is just culture building, though. That's just culture building as a whole. There's no playbook out there. I'm sure there is, but it's just things that's worked for me in the past. It's just like, if you want people to participate, get them involved, and again, understand what motivates them.
I think in America, a lot of companies have been back to work because of real estate, to be honest, and they have to use the real estate that they acquired years ago. But at the same time, I feel like remote work has been effective for a lot of companies, and not because, definitely I believe in being in person to collaborate together on ideas, to work on different things. I think having in-person meetings every so often really helps. But I think to look at the positive side of remote work, it's being able to unlock the global talent, And I think Europe does that more just because a few hours away is already a different country. And an understanding of cultural differences allow you to tap on the amazing designers of Spain, right? And Portugal. There's so much amazing designers here. Or the awesome product managers, perhaps, of the UK. And you have a lot of them who are very good just because they have they know English really well. They can do product management and project management really well. Or there's so much amazing developers in East Europe, And even when you get to Asia, that's a different region altogether, right? And you have all of these powerhouses that you're able to tap into if you work remotely, So I feel that remote work is still a critical piece on what will make a lot of companies successful, especially those that are more global-minded. Because I feel that when you're in person, there's so much time also wasted just staring at your computer, not being able to be productive. So I'd rather use that time to not get to a state of burnout, But we're kind of spoiled because ever since the pandemic, we've lived this life remotely, right? Yep. How do you think, perhaps, have we made product teams more successful working remotely? What tools have you used, perhaps, that helped your team communicate much better?
Yeah, like obviously all the video conferencing applications out there. But the big things for us, and tools are recognizing this as, Figma and Miro, massive.
Yeah.
Google Docs, that hasn't changed. All the Atlassian products, that haven't really changed. They've become a little bit more collaborative, but Miro, Figma, those are the two big players.
Yeah.
Where everyone could just dive in, follow someone's cursor, build charts and roadmaps or wireframe rapidly all together on one. It's quite good. And you could be a little bit of a spy and see like who's actually typing things, who's moving the sticky notes around in Miro, which I think is quite important. Those are like the big ones that I've been using, or the teams have been using quite regularly.
There's so much in our tool set that I think that we can use for managing remote teams. And I think a lot of people should hedge a little bit more and use these tools to make themselves more successful working remotely. I think those that haven't been successful are those that don't use these tools at all or probably rely on calls, I think being in calls is one of the biggest time waster.
It's called Loom videos. Make
your
Loom
you've been
videos.
Successful with Loom videos, and I think you should use it more often.
Yes, I have so many scheduled meetings that are 15 minutes of more of like, how was your weekend? What did you get up to? and like, oh, no updates from me. Make a Loom video, send it on, and it's away you go. And I'm bringing that into the organization. And it's not even a new product, but I'm bringing that into the organization I'm currently in, and it's been quite successful for me.
I've been using actually this new tool called Weekwise. It's a very young company, and what they're trying to do is really time and task planning. And the concept is really basic. It's just being able to track your time, and being able to track your time during week and doing an audit of or report of what you've done during the week and where you've spent your time will help you understand your level of productivity and where you want to divide your time wisely. That's why it's called Weekwise, so that you're able to allocate more time to stuff that makes you more productive. So I think that's what people should be doing is being able to do an audit, and then from there, they use that as an evaluation for the effectivity of their remote teams.
Okay, Dustin. So since you're such a big advocate of remote work and
What,
you're
I am?
You're Mr. Worldwide, well,
Yeah.
every time I talk to you, you're in a different part of the world. How are you actually collaborating?
For me, it's always about being aware of where I am every day. One big problem I have being around the world is like, which time zone am I in? Which country am I in? But in order to do that, I think it's to make sure that your calendar understands the concept of multiple time zones. So you know where you're at, but also you're aware of how far or how behind certain time zones are. I'm trying to build even a tool on Lovable now that allows me to create this time zone map across teams. So I myself don't have difficulty mapping across all of the different people I have to talk to and schedule meetings with. So that's the first one, is being aware of the time zone. And then being very good with documentation. So one skill set that I've learned, and my mom is proud of me for doing this, is being able to write more and write better. Because I used to just talk a lot, and I realized that as a PM, you have to document everything to make sure that you don't only build good documentation for later on due diligence or audit or whatever, but it's to make sure that you even remember the decisions that you've made with your team. And being able to share that with your team allows you to have transparency, and there's no blame game later on if a path has been taken, based on those decisions. We need to also designate overlap hours. So one thing I do, because I have teams all over the world, I have like engineering teams in South America, East Europe, in Asia, and also in the US, is to make sure that we have common times together. To be honest, the most difficult time zone is like the Philippines, where I'm originally from, and the Pacific. Oh my God, it's so difficult because it's literally the opposite side. It's just 16 hours to get from one city to the other, direct flight. But the time zone, because they're at the ends of each time zone, it's difficult for me to manage. So I usually get sick on my first week going back home, working for Pacific hours. But, that's the life I decided to live.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'd love to ask you, what other strategies perhaps can you add to that list, that made you successful working remote? Besides Loom, I know you're a master Loom, but
Master Loom.
This is not sponsored, by the way.
Yeah, not sponsored yet. Loom, if you're listening.
And then Zoom calls you.
If you're listening.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you said everyone hates writing documents, but I think they're quite important. We talked on all these AI tools at the top of this call, or a little bit earlier in this interview, and I think there's a lot of great tools out there that'll drastically reduce the amount of actual physical writing typing you need to do. So it's quite important. I think just for me is just be cognizant of people's lives.
Yeah.
PMs, I think, and this is largely a product management audience, I think you have to be flexible. Right now I'm doing a ton of user interviews for our American user base, which for me is from 6 p.m. to midnight. And you just come down, so you have to do it. It has to get done. And if you're part of a good organization and a good team, they'll be able to comp you back, or, let you miss a meeting or give you a half day later down the month and everything. But you got to be quite flexible. Product managers are pretty adaptable people. I think the best product managers are quite adaptable. And if you really care about the product that you're shipping and you're not just moving tickets on a Jira board, you want to get close to that user base. So you got to do what you got to do. if you think a call is super, super important for your engineer in the Philippines, then you'll wake up at that hour, or you'll stay awake from
Yeah,
that
you have
hour
to be flexible.
at that hour. I'm not saying this is like a massive grind culture and you have to be working, you're constantly on call. No, that's not the case and everything. But if you care about the project and you care about the team success and everything, then you have to be somewhat adaptable.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to add also to the tool set, I think it would be good to use an AI note taker. A lot of people still don't have it, but I think this is the future where, there are a lot of decisions that have been made. And then as part of my workflow now I have like an AI note taker that takes into consideration all of the decisions that we've made. So every time I think about my week, it actually creates a summary even, or an agent that summarizes everything so that at the start of the week, I know what decisions have been made, I know what to follow up on. And I think it's something to help you with your personal productivity as you deal with international teams. And they can also be sent the same copy so that they also know what their deliverables are. I use a tool and I'll tag it also. I'm not sponsored, but I'm helping out a startup called Embra, and I've loved their product ever since. That I've been promoting it for free for a lot of people. You can build your own agents even as part of the tool set. So, agents are just like automation, right? So you can let it automate on Sunday, if you want a summary of all of the meetings, or you can also let it do notes specifically to the format that you want it to be generated in so that your notes would be consistent every week. So I think there's a lot of, again, AI tools that you can use to make remote work easy. Yeah.
That's great. All right, Dustin, to wrap things up here, again, since you're Mr. Worldwide.
It's worldwide.
Yeah, Mr. Stakeholder Management.
That's so geeky.
Yeah. Why don't you tell the audience and tell me actually, because I've always been able to learn quite a bit from you.
Yeah.
Is a lesson or some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned about just cross ecosystem working with spread out teams. If you could shed some light on that, that'd be great.
There's a lot that I've learned. Having had a lot of experience in product and also wear multiple hats. But I think there are only two things, just to keep it simple. The first one is really empathy, and then play into the strengths of your people, So empathy, it's about listening, being able to be a good listener when it comes to people from other cultures, because all of us have, English is not our first language, a lot of us don't have that as a first language. So it might be good for us to really listen to what other people feel or say or think, to make sure we understand them fully before not talking over them, but really making sure we understand them fully and empathizing with the situation, that they're in. So example, if your engineers tell us that it's difficult to deliver at a certain time, I don't want to tell my clients from a different country that, hey, they can deliver. It might be good. It's good for me to understand first the context and why they can't deliver, figure out how we can have a better plan ahead, and then try to satisfy both sides of the aisle by being able to come up with a good agreement on how we can move forward. So I think being able to listen is the best there. And also, how do you play into the strengths or the cultural strengths even of the people that you work with? So example, if I know that my designers in Spain, are amazing at what they do, how do we make sure we lean into their expertise and to what they do best instead of me telling them what to do, So I think that's the best leader, is being able to listen and being able to lead, and strengthen what your people are good at. Yeah. How about you, Kody?
It's all about motivations. I think the biggest thing is find out what motivates your team, what makes them tick. And I kind of mentioned this about stakeholders as well, but your team is equally as important, maybe even more important. You're going to work with individuals who this is a job. They clock in, they clock out. Great. That's also fine. But you're going to find engineering teams and designers and researchers who are really, really passionate about a certain area of the product and everything, and make sure you lean into that. You're not exploiting it, but you're leaning into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if individuals, I think at the end of the day, product teams, I keep using the term product teams as this group of us, we want to solve problems. And I think we're fascinated about the problems and we want to tinker and we want to try new things. So find those that are most eager and lead into that motivation. That's the number one advice I would give.
I think the best thing we've learned is not us, but others, right? The others. And I think that's the best thing about product, is that because we deal with a lot of people, we care, right? And I think the best product managers or product leaders are just who care. When they don't, then your career starts going in a different direction, or
You just become that, again, you
zombie.
become that, like you're pushing tickets on a Jira board, right?
Yeah,
And that's like the
yeah,
worst form of product. It's not even, you're a project manager at the end of the
yeah.
day, which is great if that's what you want to be.
Okay. How has your philosophy on product management? Sounds so deep. Evolved when you moved from North America to Europe. Any learnings there that you can share?
Yeah, philosophy is a good, might be a stretch here. Yeah, I think for me, because the market is like our user base is quite novel to me, and I've always liked this, even when I was working in North American market, is again just getting as close as possible to the user base. And what made the motivations here, and you'll see a lot of industries here, like it's the work to live versus live to work mentality.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite important to figure out what those motivations are from the user base. Like, why are they actually using your product? Are you actually improving anything for them? And if it is, what is it, and how can you make it even better? So I think it's just getting, I guess, reestablishing myself in. I feel like I'm a new product manager all over again, because it's like a brand new user base, and also just like building a product community here as well. Like, what other product managers in this city can I speak to, and can I go to co-working events or meetups as well? I think is quite important. Product management at the end of the day is, again, it's a team sport. You can't do it alone, but it's also good to have those colleagues you could talk about war stories with and battle with, and we're getting more and more. When this has always been a thing, but it's more and more important to have a strong network, because good product managers, I don't think, sit at one product organization or one corner. I think they are curious and they want to bounce around and move around, and without that network, it becomes very, very difficult.
And that's why I travel a lot, man. Is because I love meeting these communities, trying to understand how product or founders build their products around the world, and it's super interesting for me to see how everybody has a different perspective on it.
I
And
thought you
being
just
able,
liked the duty-free shops. I thought that's why
What?
you. Yeah.
What? Well, I'm Asian. I love shopping,
Yeah.
so I lean into that cultural understanding. But being able to meet a lot of these individuals that I've met around the world really gives me that, that understanding that having a community is very important in tech. Because it's not about benchmarking, which you might think first, like, oh, comparing myself to others, but it's really being able to learn what they do best and try to apply it yourself so that you can do very good at what you're doing every day. Finally, what advice, Kody, would you give PMs looking to expand their careers internationally? Sounds like Miley Cyrus, but
Make sure you hire a good visa lawyer.
oh my God, immigration is its own episode,
yes,
man.
it is.
It's very tricky. Yeah.
Yes, there's probably a lot of great people out there who could build much better solutions to what can be a bureaucratic nightmare. I think it's moving abroad. This is the first time I've ever lived outside of Canada and everything, but it's always something I felt like I wanted to do, and I think the dream came true, and I'm still kind of living it. Maybe only a year in, it's still kind of a honeymoon phase, but I'm still quite stoked. I think it's super, super important to have your like home base, and that's not like your home back, your original city or your original country, but the people that you're going to be living with. If you're solo, it might be a little bit easier, but I have a partner, and I have a son who is a dog. Yeah. and so I think it's quite important that you have the support there. I think it's pretty critical. But moving more to like the professional side of things, it's making sure that you really, really understand the company's philosophies and to work, what they're actually producing, and like, why does it matter? It's very similar to like back home. But I really, really encourage that everyone, if you can do it, I'm in an extremely privileged position, especially with my dual citizenship, in order to do this. But if you can, just do it. Yeah, I think it's quite great. It's not only going to make I don't even know if it's going to make you a better PM or a greater contributor to future teams, but I think it'll just enrich your life as a whole. So I think that's quite important.
Yes.
But, but hire a lawyer.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's true too. Depends on your budget.
Yeah.
For me, it's always about carpe diem, right? Being able to seize the day, and that's why I'm here now. X amount of years after leaving the Philippines, being able to experience this, being able to meet you, being able to meet everybody in my network is because I took the leap, and never looked back. And ever since, I've been trying to pay it forward and teach other people that, if you want something, go get it, like go get it. There's no other day to do it. Life is short.
Super.
So much quotes there. But yeah, thank you, Kody, for joining Flip and Drift.
Thank you,
we'll
Dustin.
probably see our viewers in another city, or Kody and I might be in another city. Probably next time we could be in Mallorca and shoot this episode next summer.
Let's head over. Let's head over to the island.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.